could not increase. And it's like, with the way the economy is now, and people are just living paycheck to paycheck, like, it's hard. So taxes increasing, that is a fear for a lot of normal people. And I don't think it should just be brushed aside like, well, these are the bonds, nothing's going to happen, because it eventually will happen. And it's like, you kind of have to think down the road where this is going to go. That's my comment.
Okay. I'll just one point of clarification. I just meant everything you said is obviously your entitled to your opinion, of course. I just said they won't have the obligation to pay back these bonds. But the tax thing, I mean, that's how you feel, of course. That's understandable. Anybody else?
I'm Kevin Rockhead. I'm president of the Churubusco Chamber of Commerce. Just wanted to mention that the Chamber Board of Directors has unanimously voted for me to come here and speak on behalf of this project. We think that this is a great opportunity for Churubusco moving forward. Obviously, going back to comprehensive plans, going back 20 years, it has been important to add housing to the town of Churubusco. Furthermore, I think not doing this project actually creates a disservice to the community in the fact that the population of Churubusco has risen about 100 people, maybe 160 people since 1980. We have a generation of folks here that aren't able to reside basically in the town that they grew up in because there's no housing. The other thing that I think is a disservice in not doing this project is to think about the people that are aging in the outlying areas of this town. I know for a fact there are a lot of widows and widowers that are currently in Thresher's Ridge that needed to relocate from their older properties to an area that was a little bit safer. These are people that have spent their entire lives in Churubusco and without the additional housing would not have the ability to stay in the community in which they lived for well over 60 years. So it is important that as we look at the future, as well as I understand there are concerns, the number of houses has relatively remained stagnant in this area. And I know as well that when people are house shopping and they love this community, they may have grown up in this community, they just do not have the ability to buy a house in this community. So, from the chamber standpoint, this is important for those reasons, as well as we have a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on this community, whether you run a pizza restaurant or you run a tire repair place or whatever it may be, or a bank. You need people in those businesses to stay in business. So having a few more hundred people is a great thing. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
My name is Mel Egoff, and I came with this vision, this idea in my mind. I was worried about the town financing the builder. Mm-hmm. And to me, however you want to do it, it still looks like the town is doing something to help the builder that he will gain financially from. Not the town of Busco, because we have signed a note. And my concern is, what does that note, us signing a note, do if we want to go at a later time and look like on our financial statement? That $1 million has got to show up on somebody's books somewhere. And that if we wanted to try to get the library going or something like that, that could be a big deal, even if you explain it. And I just don't like the idea of the whole scenario of it. And I came tonight thinking in my mind that you ought to look for a different developer. But he's got the land out there, so he's kind of got us. But I'll guarantee you, somewhere along the line, and I bet everybody in this room $50 that before that's done and he gets 20 or 30 houses in, he's going to be in here wanting a tax abatement on something. And 30 years for anybody to pay off $1 million loan is a lifetime. And none of us will be here in 30 years probably. And where does that go in perpetuity? That's a big concern that I have. And the other thing is that when we're talking about money, and I'm not against it. I think we need to grow. I agree with the Chamber of Commerce completely. But there has to be a way to get to make sure we're headed in the right direction. And I was gonna come tonight and ask this council to be the front runner and say, okay, let's meet with our schools. Let's meet with some business leaders that own the businesses and paying stuff. Talk to the fire department, have them there. Everybody, the town of Busco, everybody that's drawn major money off of our tax rolls and the money that we're generating now, and see if we're going to be able to split it up. Because I know that in 2 years, the town of Busco is going to want to renew that abatement. They don't have any of that money that they were supposed to have, and it's all going to current. They might have, but that doesn't matter. But the school is going to need an abatement, and I just, those are concerns that I have that are real. And once the abatements start, then they don't answer or amount to anything. He's going to spend, if he's doing it, he'll spend way more than $1 million out there. And we're putting in the infrastructure, and that's supposed to cover the cost to get him started. So he's got all the infrastructure that in effect the town made available to him by doing this service, and the only skin he's got in the game is building the new houses and making the money.
So now he's actually putting in all the infrastructure.
It's just the loan from the state is a 1.1 million towards the infrastructure. It'll be a lot more than that, I imagine.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
he's
the
putting
way
in
you read it sounded like I was going to pay the infrastructure.
It pays for the infrastructure, but not all of it. It goes towards that amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Sorry if I misspoke.
Well, I didn't come to be an adversary, but there's some real serious questions that I think that as a group, not even here, but back to school, we need to have a town sit down and try to make sure everybody's thinking the same thing. Because a nickel here and 10 cents here, it adds up. And we're stagnant. I agree, we're stagnant in growth and everything, but we go out there and build those new homes. The school was banking on Thresher's Ridge bringing in a bunch of students, and it didn't work that way because the senior citizens moved in, people with no homes and everything. If that happens again, what do we give up in the sake of growth? But thanks for your time, for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Leanne Herring. I don't live in town, so I certainly have no authority on this, but I have a question and a couple of comments. Is this property already annexed into the town? It is already, okay. It's hard to keep up on that without newspapers anymore.
It was about a year and a half ago, probably.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I will agree with Mr. Rothgeb on the fact that there are few homes. We are looking to retire, wanting to downsize, and right now on Realtor.com in all of 46723 there are only about one handful of homes in all of the entire zip code. And you know, some of those are in pretty rough shape, and one of those is over $700,000, which is out of reach for most people, especially for those who want to retire and downsize. So, you know, the need for housing is certainly here, and I think the way to do it is to expand the town to do it rather than the company subdivisions. And, you know, quite frankly, if we don't grow some as a town, we will die as a town. And for the most part, all but a couple of years, I've lived in this town since I was in the 3rd grade, you know, in Churubusco here. So let me tell you, that's been a long time, and I love Churubusco, and I think this is a real opportunity for us to get that housing, whether it's seniors or younger people. I think either way, it will certainly benefit our town.
Thank you.
I didn't bring a business card.
I was hoping to get that, actually.
Anyone else have anything? Any comments?
I have a couple comments.
Okay.
My name is Kayla Krantz. I'm not opposed to growth for this project. Well, I'm not a personal big fan of this specific development, but and I haven't been from the beginning. But I'm not opposed to growing the town. I do think that we are going to need some housing. My concern has always been, I don't feel that there has been a lot of forethought in terms of potential problems that this development could bring about. I attended the public hearings for the development, whenever that was, a couple years ago. And Boy Scout building was full, and it was full of citizens that had various concerns about the development. A lot of them were geared towards the flooding that happens currently in Threshers Ridge and how that would all be taken care of and addressed with the new development. But I just don't think there's been a lot of effort into traffic congestion. You know, we already have a very congested 33, especially at peak hours, and you're talking about putting 100 homes that are going to filter off onto a road that puts them right onto 33. School not having enough staff or space for extra students, if it does bring in students, as seems to be the goal. I think there was a lot of issues that haven't been given thought to. We're just saying, oh, it's growth, it's growth, it's growth, we need it, but we have to be smart about growth. That's been my whole problem, and I don't think there's been a lot of thought or even studies put in on potential problems that will be created that will then need to be solved. You know, even though this might solve a housing problem, but if it's affordable housing, because I think that's another thing to keep in mind. You can't just build houses if people can't afford them. That's not going to do any good either. So my whole thing has just been, I would have liked to have seen a lot more be addressed about some of these issues, traffic, the school, various things like that. That's my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Our next step would be to move on to the resolution to consider approval, but the developer is here. I wanted to give him an opportunity to, if you guys had any questions or address any of that, if you'd like him to, it's up to you.
Happy to answer any questions you have.
Do you have a price point that you're going to aim for? I know I am a realtor. I've never listed any of your homes, and I have no intentions of doing that. But I know you usually build a very affordable home, which is one of the reasons that you have thrived in Whitley County. Do you have a number in mind? I mean, obviously, like a price range. I know some of them are estate lots, so that changes that too. But just for the average home in there.
Yeah, and it depends on what definition of affordable is. It's kind of astonishing how prices have grown over the past 5 years in particular. But our entry point now of house and lot is around $325,000, and that's for 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. All of our lots will have a 3-car garage option. We can leave the subdivision out to have that availability. And that's kind of for what I'll call our standard house. We have kind of 3 product lines that we'll be offering out there, as I think you're aware of. We've got the single family homes, we've got the villa community, which is a little separate section, which will have homes that have an association that for an additional monthly fee take care of the lawn care and snow removal. So that really caters to kind of the empty nester market. And then we also have 9 estate lots that front the county road that are around an acre plus in size. So those will be larger lots, and the price point there will be higher than that. We anticipate, but I think the majority of the homes will be in the 325 to 400 range. That's probably where I see, at least starting in next year. Hopefully we break ground in the next 6 months, and if all goes well, we'll have the first lots available probably this time next year in the spring.
Now, reflecting back on the question about the traffic, correct me if I'm wrong, but through the design you had alternate exits on different county roads, and how did you address that when you were planning the add-on?
So we've been doing this now for about 60 years in different communities, and I think we've only had one community require a traffic study, and that's because we had an outlet directly onto a state highway, and we have never had any deviations in our overall design based on traffic. We're just, it seems like a lot of, traffic. We're talking about around 100 homes. Our first phase will be, I think, right around 50 homes, so about half that. But we just have never had, the requirement, the necessity to deviate from kind of our engineers very thoughtful in the way he lays the communities out to make sure we work with local jurisdiction on approvals for egress on the property. This will have a new entrance. I say new, this will connect to Thresher's Ridge on one of the interior streets, I think in phase 2, but the initial phase will have a separate entrance off of a county road there. And I think we've all seen the design for that. So we've been, considered thoughtful about the design in terms of access to the property, and we've not had a problem, even though we certainly do have those comments in other public hearings about people being concerned, which is fine, but we do take that into consideration, and through our engineering design work, we make sure that it's not going to cause any public harm to the community or any, overflowing of any arteries.
Thank you.
So if you don't have any further questions, I have a proposed resolution. The resolution states that the project will increase the property tax base. There's anticipated to increase the property tax base. There will be no substantial adverse competitive effect. The company reasonably anticipates an investment of approximately $18.4 million. And you are approving for the town council to ultimately approve a $1.1 million in non-recourse funds to the town. The loan documents and the trust documents are in substantially their final form. They're in front of you and approved. And that you are approving of the issuance of these bonds. So at your pleasure, it would be resolution, we'll call it 2025-01. How do you number your resolutions normally?
I think the next one on mine is 05.
Well, this is the first one ever.
Yeah, 01's fine.
Okay, 01. If you wish to proceed.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-01.
I second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution passes. I'll pass that around for you guys to sign. And then, before we wrap things up, this is a little unusual. Madeline has actively been taking the minutes during the meeting because the bond council needs approved approved minutes for closing, which is on March 10th. And pre-closing is March 24th, I believe. When there's bonds, they have a pre-closing with all the agencies, and they kind of go through everything to make sure they have everything. And then there's kind of called a cold closing on March 10th. So as soon as she's done filling those in, I will ask you to take a look at those and then approve the minutes before you adjourn.
So these both go back to you.
Yeah, I'll take them back. Thank you. I just vote to approve it first,
Oh,
and then
okay.
sign it.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from today's meeting.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That is all we have, so if you'd like to make a motion to adjourn, we can do that.
I'll move to adjourn this meeting.
Have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you very much.